Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. As you know, we are trying to understand the meaning and significance of the term Hujjat, and this is the fifth and final conversation in this series. Although the topic is so vast that even a person with limited knowledge like me could speak about it in detail for at least 100 audio clips, I am summarizing our discussion in a very concise manner, considering your listener and your own time constraints. What has been discussed so far in your presence is that Hujjat refers to something that is itself evident and manifest, but serves as proof or evidence for something that is not apparent or visible, and strengthens one's belief in it. So, the visible thing is called the Hujjat of the invisible thing. For example, seeing smoke, you become certain of the presence of fire. Therefore, smoke is called the Hujjat of fire. The Hujjat or divine proof existed before creation, it exists with creation, and it will exist after creation. We have already discussed this point in detail. Today, I'll summarize the entire discussion with the help of a hadith from the leader of the Prophet Salawatullah alayh. This hadith is present in approximately 48 books. I am presenting it to you from volume 1 of Al-Kafi, page number 437. The leader of the Prophet Salawatullah alayhi said, "I swear by the one in whose hand my life is, no one will benefit from their deeds unless they recognize our privileged divine rights. The first privileged divine right of Hujjat is that he is our Wali Mutlaq, absolute guardian. He is the honor of our lives, wealth, honor, reputation, faith, and everything else. We must acknowledge his ownership and become his slaves. Every word uttered by the sacred tongue of the Lord of the Prophets should be considered a certainty by a believer, so that no doubt remains in this pure statement, and no one remains in a state of uncertainty. Today, our environment has become such that our scholars, prayer leaders, and school teachers emphasize deeds and obligations a lot. Undoubtedly, the importance of deeds and duties is established and unquestionable. However, what will make these deeds acceptable? Whoever has the recognition of the pure household of the Prophet, his deeds will be accepted. And whoever does not have the recognition of the rights of these pure beings, his deeds will be rejected. That is, the importance of knowing the Imam's rights is so great that without it, the acceptance of deeds is unimaginable. Based on this hadith, divine recognition can be divided into two parts. One part is that we have divine recognition of those pure beings, including the Holy Prophet and Imam Salawatullah alayh. In reality, we cannot attain mystical understanding or marifat of those pure beings Salawatullah alayh, because just as eternal necessary being, Zat-e Wajibul Wujud, is beyond our comprehension, those pure beings Salawatullah alayh are also beyond our intellectual grasp. Just as our intellect cannot fully comprehend God's essence, similarly, our intellect cannot fully comprehend the essence of those pure beings Salawatullah alayh. It is incumbent upon us to have sufficient understanding to identify our Hujjat or living divine proof of God's existence in our era, whom we must obey. We must also have the knowledge who was the previous Hujjat or divine proof before the present one, Salawatullah alayh. And if another Hujjat or divine proof is to appear in the future, what will be his identity? God himself ordains the time of the manifestations of his Hujjat or divine authority. And after appointing his Hujjat or divine proof, God communicates it to us through his beloved and purified messenger, Salawatullah alayh. And each era's sacred Imam Salawatullah alayh introduces his successor, the next Imam Salawatullah alayh, who will continue the divine guidance. It is not within human authority to appoint someone as Hujjat or divine proof, or to designate someone as the representative of God on their own behalf. Humans cannot take this decision upon themselves, because this authority solely rests with Allah Almighty. He himself introduces his Hujjat or divine proof, declaring who will be his representative and in which particular era. If you examine the details, you will find that in the Sermon of Ghadir, the Holy Prophet Salawatullah Alayh mentioned the 12 Imams Salawatullah Alayh, the purified ones, at 15 different places, and at 4 places, he Salawatullah Alayh even mentioned the sacred name of our master of the time, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. In another hadith, the signs and grandeur of our master, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, the king of the universe, are also described. And in Ghadir, it was not just the allegiance to Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen Salawatullah Alayh that was taken, because if you read the Sermon of Ghadir, you will clearly find that the command was given to pledge allegiance to all the purified Imams Salawatullah Alayh. Meaning that in Ghadir, the allegiance of all the Imams Salawatullah Alayh from the 1st to the 12th was taken. And the command was given to those who were present should convey this message to those who were not present. Thus, the Sermon of Ghadir has the status of a continuous command, and this command is obligatory on the people of every era to convey to those who come later in this world, so that the command of the leader of the Prophet Salawatullah Alayh may be fulfilled. Now, let's examine Marifat or profound understanding in general sense from another perspective. It is impossible for a lower being to have Marifat or profound understanding of a higher being. For example, people keep dogs and cats in their homes. What profound understanding do these animals have of their owners? Do they know their owner's name, age, father's name, grandfather's name, education level, or language? No, they don't. The reason is that it is impossible for these animals to have deeper knowledge or profound understanding of a higher being than themselves. I quote another example here. Can humans have deeper knowledge of a higher being than themselves? Do humans have profound knowledge of angels? How they come into existence? How they live? How they spend their time? What they eat and how they reside? No, humans don't know. They can't even see them. Whether they are angels, cherubim, or beings of the divine realm, they are all higher than humans, and humans can't even imagine what they are. So, how can a human being who cannot even comprehend a higher being than themselves like angels claim to have divine recognition of divine proof of God, Hujjat? Even angels cannot attain divine recognition, Marifat, of divine proof, Hujjat. So how can a human being dare claim such inner divine recognition? This is impossible. The limit of our divine recognition is only to recognize who is the Hujjat of our time, who is closer to us than our own jugular vein. The second aspect is that we need to see what privilege the divine proof, Hujjat, has over us, and we need to fulfill that privilege. And the sacred hadith of the king of the Prophet Salawatullah Alayh also conveys the same meaning, that whoever does not recognize the privilege of the divine proof of God, Hujjat, none of their deeds will benefit them. Meaning, if you do not fulfill the privilege of the divine proof of God, Hujjat of your time, none of your deeds will benefit you in any way. So this is the importance of acquiring divine recognition, Marifat of the divine proof of God, Hujjat. If we examine it with a little more subtlety, we realize that one being cannot even comprehend the various stages of another being of the same kind. I'll give an example. Can a newborn baby distinguish between a crawling baby and a running child in the same house? No, it cannot. Can a 2 or 3-year-old child understand the wisdom of a 10-year-old child? No, it cannot. Can a young person understand the feelings and experiences of old age? No, he cannot. Because until a person goes through a particular state or experience himself, he cannot comprehend it. Therefore, irfan or specific inner divine recognition is not a trivial or ordinary thing. Rather, it requires many experiences and observations to acquire. There are 2 ways to acquire Marifat or mystical understanding and irfan or specific inner divine recognition. One way is to observe the effects, asar, and recognize the cause, muassar. For example, you recognize the sun by seeing its rays. So recognizing the cause through its effects is also a way to acquire marfat or mystical understanding. The second way is to behold the essence, Zat, and attain irfan or specific inner divine knowledge. Acquiring marfat, mystical understanding through effects, is within human capability. But attaining irfan or specific inner divine recognition through the essence, Zat, is solely a divine privilege. And it is only Allah Almighty who possesses the knowledge of the essence, Zat. Moreover, take a further step and consider that before creating anything, Allah Almighty has complete inner divine recognition, irfan of it. And the same inner divine recognition is also possessed by the proof of God, Hujjat, because the proof of God is essentially the embodiment of God's knowledge. I'll give you another example. Suppose you have different types of seeds, such as wheat, chickpeas, barley, and bajra in front of you. If you are familiar with the agricultural products, you can easily identify them by name. This means that you have directly observed something and recognized it. Similarly, if someone brings a baked loaf of bread in front of you and asks what type of grain it is made of, you can identify it by touching, smelling, and tasting it. After observing and experiencing the bread, you can determine that it is made of wheat. So, first, you saw the bread and gained the knowledge of it. The information gained through observation is called knowledge. But the process of reaching the wheat through experiencing and observing the bread is called marfat or profound knowledge in general sense. And we are commanded to acquire marfat of the infallibles or masumin salawatullah alayh. Note that in spiritual matters, there is an established principle that the knowledge that can be acquired through human effort is called ilm kasbi or attained knowledge. But the knowledge that is bestowed directly by Allah Almighty is called ilm laduni or intimate knowledge. However, marfat or mystical understanding is never acquired, but rather it is a spiritual or divine grant or ata from God, and to attain it, one must have intimate and sincere love for the pure Imam Salawatullah alayh of his time. And it is God Himself who bestows this marfat or mystical understanding. And remember the blessed hadith that says, our matter, Amr, is very tough, challenging and uncontrollable like an unruly horse. None can attain it except the sent prophets, the intimate angel, and the believer whose heart has been tested by God Himself with faith. So, it is God Himself who grants mystical understanding, marfat, but before granting it, He tests one's heart. Those who succeed in the test and elevate their spiritual capacity are granted mystical understanding, marfat, accordingly. Therefore, faith has been divided into 10 stages, and the name of Hazrat Salman Farsi has been mentioned at the 10th stage, Hazrat Abu Zar at the 9th, Hazrat Miqdad at the 8th, and Hazrat Ammar Yasir at the 7th. All the noble companions who were mentioned during the time of the Prophet Salawatullah alayh have been brought to our attention. This makes us realize how difficult and challenging it is to attain the various stages of faith. And for an ordinary person, reaching these stages is almost impossible because it requires extreme effort and striving. This highlights the idea that the higher stages of faith are exponentially more advanced and spiritually elevated, and that the difference between them is so immense. The Holy Prophet Salawatullah alayh himself said to Salman Farsi, O Salman, if Abu Zar comes to know what you believe about my brother Ali, he will kill you. And in this regard, the Holy Prophet Salawatullah alayh also instructed Abu Zar, O Abu Zar, if Miqdad comes to know what you think about my brother Ali, he will either issue a fatwa for your death or he will constantly pray for the forgiveness of your murderer. Here, the focus is solely on the immense spiritual gap between these stages of faith, that a person who is less advanced and less spiritually elevated in the stages of faith, say Hazrat Abu Zar, talks no less than the murder of the person who is exceptionally more advanced and spiritually elevated in the stages of faith, say Hazrat Salman Farsi. See, until the benevolent gaze of those pure beings Salawatullah alayh is upon us, mystical understanding or marfat is not attained. Maula Sadiq-e-Ala Muhammad Salawatullah alayh taught a beautiful and detailed hadith to Mufazzal, which we still read today in the books as the hadith of Mufazzal. When Maula Sadiq-e-Ala Muhammad Salawatullah alayh was teaching the hadith to Mufazzal, he realized that Mufazzal's heart was constricting and he was unable to bear the truths expressed in the hadith. So, Maula Salawatullah alayh placed his blessed hand on Mufazzal's chest and granted him the capacity to understand, or in other words, expanded his chest. After that, Mufazzal was able to comprehend the teachings of the hadith. The Imam Salawatullah alayh first expanded Mufazzal's capacity and then poured mystical understanding, marfat, into it. If the Imam Salawatullah alayh had not done so, Mufazzal would have been destroyed. I mentioned earlier that if the Imam hadn't expanded Mufazzal's capacity, he would have been destroyed. I didn't add anything to this statement. To prove it, I referenced the sermon number 193 from Nahj al-Balagha. The commander of the faithful, Salawatullah alayh, had a companion named Hammam. He requested the Imam to grant him the attributes of the righteous. The Imam Salawatullah alayh granted him the attributes, but as soon as Hammam heard them, he fell dead on the spot. The Imam then said it was destined that he would be destroyed. Here I want to say something very important. Please listen carefully. The attributes of the righteous were so immense that even a companion like Hammam was overwhelmed and died after hearing them, because the virtues and attributes of a true believer were beyond his capacity to bear. If the virtues and attributes of an ordinary believer are so great, then what would be the majesty and grandeur of the virtues and attributes of the Imam of the righteous Salawatullah alayh? I'll tell you another incident. When the noble Imam Maula Karim-e Karbala Salawatullah alayh arrived in a village for preaching purposes, the people requested him to grant him his mystical understanding or marfat. The sacred Imam Salawatullah alayh replied, "Your capacity is not sufficient to receive mystical understanding." The villagers insisted, so the sacred Imam Salawatullah alayh said, "Bring me the strongest and the most powerful person from your village." When that person came, the sacred Imam Salawatullah alayh took him to his sacred tent and shared some aspects of his mystical understanding with him. After that, when the strong young man emerged from the tent, all his hair had turned white, his back was bent, and he stood before everyone in the form of a weak and elderly person. When people asked him what the sacred Imam Salawatullah alayh had revealed to him, he replied, "I don't remember anything." The sacred Imam said in response, "That's the reason he is still alive, because he has forgotten everything. If he had remembered anything, he wouldn't have survived." Friends, the knowledge of the Imam Salawatullah alayh is not a small or ordinary thing. It's a rare and precious treasure. I'll tell you a story about it. Once Jesus Christ was traveling with his disciples and they came across a river. The disciples said, "If we had a boat, we could cross the river." Jesus Christ said, "What need is there for a boat? I will walk on the water and you can follow me and walk on the water too. Just have faith in me and the river will not harm you." Jesus Christ started walking on the water and the disciples followed him. But one of the disciples started to doubt and began to sink into the water. Jesus Christ turned around, caught him and said, "Don't doubt me and keep walking with faith." Friends, this incident is a great lesson for us. If our faith in the Imam Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif of our time becomes strong, we will also become the master of accomplishments. Someone narrated the story of Jesus Christ walking on the water in the presence of Maula Amir al-Mu'mineen Salawatullah alayh and said, "Maula, Jesus Christ used to walk on water just like a common man walks on earth." Maula Amir al-Mu'mineen Salawatullah alayh gave a beautiful response. He said if he had elevated his faith in our Vilaya, divine authority, he would have walked on air just as he walked on earth. Meaning, having strong faith in the Vilaya makes a person so powerful that he can walk on air just as easily as he walks on earth. Friends, we have many more examples like this. When Hazrat Salman Farsi became the governor of Madain, he stopped the thefts in Madain through the city dogs. There was a person who used to cheat in weighing goods and had faulty scales. Hazrat Salman Farsi summoned him. When he didn't come, even after being called 3 times, Hazrat Salman Farsi told the messenger to deliver a message in person's shop, saying, "Tell the scales in this person's shop to transport him to Hazrat Salman Farsi because he has summoned him." When the message was delivered again, the person refused to comply, and the messenger said, "You will face great difficulty if you don't go, and you will eventually have to go." The person responded carelessly, saying, "I have seen many governors come and go." When the messenger heard the person's response, he turned to the scales and said, "The governor has ordered you to bring this person to him." As soon as he said this, the scales started hitting the person on the head, face and other parts of the body, and the person ran to the mosque and presented himself before Hazrat Salman Farsi. Now the question arises, where did Hazrat Salman get this power from? Actually, he got this power due to his complete faith in Hujjat or divine proof of his time. Similarly, there is a very interesting incident of Hazrat Behlol. Hazrat Behlol narrated an incident of Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen Salawatullah alayh to one of his Shia friends, in which Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen Salawatullah alayh took someone on a journey to another world and showed him his authority being enforced there. The person replied, "Uncle Behlol, there is a limit to joking. You have exaggerated. How can this be possible?" Hazrat Behlol said, "You doubted my words? Now close your eyes." The person closed his eyes. After a while, Hazrat Behlol said, "Now open your eyes." As soon as he opened his eyes, he found himself in a completely different world. There were beautiful gardens, extremely beautiful markets and buildings, and there were young men, each more handsome than the last, walking around. The person asked Hazrat Behlol, "Where is this place?" Hazrat Behlol replied, "Go, roam around, see and enjoy yourself." That person saw that buying and selling was going on everywhere, but no coins were being used in these transactions. I'll explain it with an example. He went to a fruit shop and said, "Give me a kilogram of apples." After getting the apples, he asked about the price, and the shopkeeper said, "Just send blessings, darood to my emperors, Masumeen Salawatullah alayh, 100 times. That's the price." Then he went to the butcher's shop and then to the vegetable and cloth shops and saw that things were being sold at the same price. Then he came back to Hazrat Behlol and said, "Uncle Behlol, this is a very beautiful place. Leave me here." Hazrat Behlol left him there and returned. About a month later, Hazrat Behlol went back to that place and saw that the same person was sitting by the roadside. As soon as he saw Hazrat Behlol, he started crying and said, "Uncle Behlol, take me back to my ward immediately. I am starving to death here." Hazrat Behlol asked about his condition, and he said, "Whenever I needed something here, I would take it and pay with blessings or darood. I had become well acquainted with everyone here. People asked me where I lived, and I told them I lived in the garden. They asked why I didn't live in a house, and I said I didn't have the money. They said, 'Don't you have blessings or darood as currency?' So I started living in a house. And friends said, 'Why are you living alone? Get married.' I said, 'I didn't have the money for the dowry.' And they said, 'Don't you have blessings or darood as currency?' So I got married too, and I was living comfortably in my house. But when the month ended, the soldiers came, arrested me, beat me up and told me to divorce my wife. I had to give her a divorce. Then the soldier threw me out of the house and left me here, and I have been sitting here since that day. Neither does anyone give me anything to eat nor anything to drink." Hazrat Behlol said, "Didn't you ask them why they beat you up and took your rings?" The person replied, "I asked, but the soldiers said, 'Your blessings are counterfeit and you take genuine goods by giving fake currency. Get lost from here.' Since that day, no one has given me anything here." Hazrat Behlul said, "You should have asked them. I also recite the same blessings that you recite, so how can my blessings be counterfeit?" The person said, "I did ask," and the soldiers replied, "You do recite the blessings, but at the height where you consider those sacred beings salawatullah alayh, their slaves are actually present at the same height. You diminish their glory and grandeur. That's why your blessings are counterfeit." Then friends, this is the importance of mystical understanding or marifat. Until a person has spiritual knowledge, their blessings or durood will remain counterfeit, and the standard of their love and devotion to the infallible salawatullah alayh will also be imperfect. There is another famous incident where Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah alayh said, "The dignity of a believer is that if he says to this wall, 'Become gold,' it will become gold." As soon as he said this, the wall turned to gold. The person who had asked about Mawla salawatullah alayh's dignity said, "O Mawla, the wall has turned to gold, although you didn't even command it." Mawla replied, "This is the difference between a believer and the commander of the faithful, Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah alayh. If that wall had not turned to gold, people would still be looking at this noble command with skepticism that even stone walls can also be transformed into gold. But the stone wall transformed into a gold wall, sealing the command of Mawla Amir Kainat salawatullah alayh until the day of judgment, and silencing all the so-called religious scholars and hypocritical theologians. The dignity of a believer is that if he commands even a stone wall, it will become gold. This is the greatness and importance of spiritual knowledge or marifat, that whoever has the mystical understanding of the pure household or Ahle Bayt salawatullah alayh will be taken to such a high rank that if he commands a wall, it will become gold. And if he wishes, he can simply close his eyes and transport someone to another planet, showing him the wonders of that unknown world. This is the believer whose faith is strong and whose spirituality would be at the highest level. Friends, we discussed the dignity of a believer, and we also tried to provide you with some awareness regarding the specific inner divine recognition of Hujjat or divine proof, Irfan-e-Hujjat. Now at last, I present to you a strange point in your service. This point is the last part of our conversation, and if you can understand the explanation of this point in the context of arguments, then many mysteries will be resolved automatically. I want to explain a principle and a law to you. See, everything has four existences. First is mental, second one is verbal, third one is written, and the fourth one is real. For example, a chair has a mental existence, the idea of a chair in our mind. It also has a verbal existence, the word chair that we speak. It also has a written existence, the written word chair on the paper or screen. Finally, it also has a real existence, the physical chair that we can see and touch. So the image of the chair that we have in our mind is its mental existence. Now the word chair comes out of our mouth, which is its verbal existence, existence of the spoken word. Then when we write the word chair on paper, it becomes its written existence, existent in writing. And the chair that is physically present in our office, room or classroom is its real existence, physical existence. Friends, similarly, the Quran has four existences. The Quran's existence that is preserved in our minds is called its mental existence. When we recite the Quran with our tongues, it is called its verbal existence. And the Quran that is present in front of us in the form of a printed book is called its written existence. But what is the Quran's real existence? To understand this, there is a long hadith that the sacred family salawatullah alayh has given us, providing a lot of information about the day of judgment. I will present a summary of this sacred hadith to you. The hadith says that the day of judgment has arrived, And the noble prophets, successors, saints, martyrs, truthful ones, and the righteous ones are standing in rows before the sacred family Salawatullah alayh on the illuminated platform. Suddenly, a remarkably handsome young man enters the scene, and the radiant beams emanating from his face illuminate the entire gathering, causing the day of judgment to shine brightly. The young man walks through the rows of the righteous, Salihin, and they think that he is one of them, a companion and a friend. But he passes through the rows of the righteous and enters the rows of the truthful ones, Siddiqeen. The truthful ones also think he is one of them, but he doesn't stop there either. He continues on, advancing forward and enters the rows of the noble martyrs, Shuhada-e Karam. The martyrs think he is one of them, but he doesn't stop there either. He proceeds further, entering the rows of the noble saints, Awliya-e Karam. Then the noble saints consider him to be one of them, a saint of God. From there, he moves on to the rows of the successors, Awsiya-e Karam, who think he is a successor like themselves, an inheritor of the Prophet's legacy. Next, he joins the rows of the prophets, who believe he is a prophet like themselves. But the young man leaves all these rows behind and proceeds to the illuminated platform, where he stands alongside the sacred family, Masumeen, the infallible ones, Salawatullah alayh. And his face and forehead shine with the same divine light that shines from the forehead of the Holy Prophet and the other infallible ones, Masumeen Salawatullah alayh, like a radiant beam. All the noble prophets are astonished and ask the Holy Prophet Salawatullah alayh, "Who is this young man?" And the Holy Prophet Salawatullah alayh replies, "He is the Holy Quran, the very essence of our divine light, a part of our divine existence." In other words, the real existence of the Quran is a fragment of the divine light of guidance, Nur-e-Hujjat. I have presented a profound concept before you, that the true existence of the Quran is, in fact, the divine light of guidance, Nur-e-Hujjat from God, and this divine light is present before us in the form of the Quran. The only difference is that when this divine light, the Holy Quran, appears before us, it is silent and speechless, Quran is Samit. Whereas when the divine light, Hujjat, takes on the human form and converses with us, it becomes the speaking Quran, Quran-e-Natiq. Both the silent and speaking forms of the Quran are present before us. Now I want to share a crucial point with you and conclude our conversation by saying that you should study the virtues of the Quran and attribute each virtue you find in the Quran to the divine light of guidance, Nur-e-Hujjat, as well. Because in the speaking Quran, Quran-e-Natiq, those virtues will be even more superior to those in the silent Quran, Quran-e-Samit. And if the Quran says, "I possess the knowledge of everything, dry and fresh," then believe that the knowledge of everything, dry and fresh, that is present with the divine light of guidance, Nur-e-Hujjat itself, which is among us, is far superior to the knowledge that is present in the Holy Quran. The Quran says, "If I were to be sent down upon mountains, they would crumble to pieces." Believe that if the light of guidance were to shed its radiance upon a mountain, it would also crumble to pieces. And if you need an example, look at the mountain Sinai, which was consumed by fire and reduced to ashes. So, friends, I conclude our conversation about the knowledge of the divine light of guidance, Nur-e-Hujjat. I pray that God may grant you the awareness to truly love and recognize the pure Imam Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif of your time, and to understand his rights and responsibilities. May you realize that the greatest right of the Imam Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif is that we sacrifice our lives, wealth, honor and everything for the sake of our time's pure Imam Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, who is the manifestation of God's guidance. As you gain more knowledge and understanding, your desire for martyrdom will also increase. I pray that God grants you the same level of understanding that He granted to the martyrs of Karbala, so that you may also become like them. And when you become the true supporters of the Imam Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif of your time, then be certain that there will be no delay in the reappearance of our Master Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. On that day, my Master's reappearance will occur when all of you will become his supporters. I pray that the Noble Lord show us that beautiful day, that beautiful moment, sooner rather than later, and may our Master's grand reappearance take place, bringing eternal joy and spring to the pure household, Salawatullah alayh. Amen. Amen. O Lord of the universe.